So if you're newly divorced and you're starting to date, stop before you do anything and listen to today's episode. Today's episode is where I'm going to talk about most everything that I wish I would have known before I started dating after my divorce. I will talk about 8 really important things for you to tune into so that you can set yourself up for successful dating after a divorce. Tune in. You wish that you had a handbook, a list of rules that would tell you exactly what you need to know before you start dating after a divorce. Well, that's what today's episode is going to be about. It's about the 8 things that I wish I knew before I started dating after my divorce. And they say that life doesn't come with instructions. I often say relationships don't come with instructions. But why suffer if you don't have to without having some kind of a roadmap? Today's episode is that roadmap. So let's dig in. Everything I wish I knew before I started dating after divorce. First of all, let me say this. Dating after divorce is not at all like dating before divorce, before marriage. They're 2 completely different animals. First of all, when you were dating, when you met your partner years ago, there probably was no internet. There probably were no dating sites and or dating apps. So you probably met your partner maybe in college or at work or through a mutual friend, even a blind date. But the whole dating scene now is completely different. So it's like going from driving a stick shift to an automatic or a stick shift to an electric car. You don't even need gas for. There are changes, there are updates that it will be really helpful for you to be aware of as you move through this. So just recognizing they're 2 completely different animals helps. What you're doing post-divorce as you begin to date is you are rebuilding a muscle. It's something that maybe you haven't used in a long time. You haven't been dating, you were married, maybe raising kids, things were completely different. So what you're doing now is finding the courage to kind of get back into the gym and reuse that muscle all over again. Part of the rebuilding process is not just physical, and I'm talking about a physical analogy, but the physical might be now you start eating differently or you start working out. Maybe some of you have heard of the divorce diet, where all of a sudden you realize, oh, I'm going to be putting myself out there again. I want to start taking better care of myself. So people start working out. They start using a personal trainer or eating clean. And that's all positive. That's all good. And that's just another way to change yourself or rebuild yourself. Then there's socially and logistically too, where maybe now you're getting used to living in a new house. You had to sell your home, or even the social piece. Maybe all your friends are married. When I got divorced, almost all my friends were married and didn't know anybody who was divorced. So it's really kind of carving out a new path for yourself socially as well. And these are some of the things I wish I was aware of before I was kind of thrown into this unfamiliar territory. And I also wish somebody would have been able to tell me that dating after divorce is so different, in that now you have baggage, if you want to use that word. I'm not a big fan of the word, but maybe you have children. Maybe you have a history. You have an ex-husband or ex-wife that hasn't disappeared. Maybe you're not widowed, so if you have to still co-parent, for example, that could present challenges as you go through your dates. I know for me, I would sometimes be sitting on a date early on when my kids were young and be thinking about the kids or getting a text from them, or it's hard to be in 2 places at once. So really just recognizing this and giving yourself permission to feel all the feelings as you go through this is critically important. It's also important to remember that you are not choosing a partner necessarily. You are choosing who you want to be in this process moving forward. And those are two very different things. So the 8 things that I wish I knew. Here's number 1. Number 1 is that healing is not the same as being ready. That you might say, Stacey, I've been in therapy and I've been really working on myself and I feel like I'm healing. That doesn't necessarily mean you are ready to put yourself on Bumble. Well, but why not? What's the difference? The difference is that readiness comes from a place of feeling whole. And healing is a process that takes time. I'm not saying you should wait until you are 100% healed, because that's really, I think it's a lifetime journey. And of course, it differs along the way. It gets easier along the way. And then sometimes there are triggers and we feel pushed back. But healing and readiness are two different things. So when you put yourself out there to start dating, make sure you are ready. Number 2, maybe, just maybe, ladies, don't date your typical type. You say, oh, but I'm so attracted to this kind of a man. Okay, well, is that the kind of man that you just divorced? Because if so, maybe you want to rewrite your type, rewrite the script a little bit. Having chemistry with somebody is not necessarily the same thing as discerning, like, is this a potentially good partner for me? Am I a good partner in this relationship? Or do I compromise myself in some ways? Do I shrink and not speak up? Do I drink too much when I'm with this person? Do I change who I am? So those are important things to consider. So first one was healing is not being the same as healing is not the same as being ready. And number 2, don't date your type, because inevitably what you'll be doing is just repeating a pattern. Number 3, you don't have to prove your worthiness to anybody. And if you feel like you do on a date, that is not the date or the man or the person or the relationship for you. That dating is not an audition. I kind of referenced this before. It's more of an experience that you're having. You're having an experience with somebody. And it's not like you have to perform and see if he chooses you. Did he like you? Did you pass his test? Actually, see it as a little bit of an interview. You're having an experience with somebody, and you want to not necessarily say, hey, show me your resume, but instead to learn about this person, learn about what do they value, how do they handle loss and pain and conflict, and what brings them joy. And are these pieces of information that you're learning about this person in alignment with what you value? So again, the third one being you don't have to prove your worthiness. Number 4 is red flags, ladies. Red flags do not miraculously turn into green flags. Shocking, I know. But I could change him. No, you can't. You can change how you deal with him, but you're not going to change anybody. And at this point in life, I imagine you know that already, intellectually. But what we know intellectually and what we know emotionally are often very different things. So if, for example, you're out on a date, great guy, he's making you laugh, he's generous, he brought you flowers, it's all going well, but there's a part of you that feels really uncomfortable inside. This is incredibly valuable information for you to have. I want you to really pay attention to this, because it's telling you something's off. And the last thing in the world I'd like you to do is to dismiss yourself, your thoughts, your feelings. That in and of itself it's like you're betraying yourself, and that's not okay. So pay attention to your feelings. So that number 4 is red flags don't turn into green flags. If it's a yellow flag, you can give it some time and maybe you need some more information. But again, red is red, green is green. Number 5, boundaries are going to really help you stay true to yourself. So if you find yourself maybe having sex with this person too soon, you've betrayed yourself. You didn't set a clear boundary with yourself, let alone with the person you're dating. Unless that's what you want to do on your first date. I don't recommend it though. Having said that, what boundaries can you set up for yourself that will protect you as you go through this? And I'm not saying stay guarded. I'm saying, if it's going to rain, you're going to bring an umbrella. You don't want to get wet outside. So have some metaphorical umbrellas, if you will, as you date. So you don't get soaked in the rain. So yes. So again, boundaries, and more boundaries. Maybe you don't, for example, introduce him to your children too soon. Maybe you don't share too much of your finances with him too soon. You get to know somebody first. Number 6, it is normal, completely normal, to be triggered while you're dating. It's understandable that you might compare. Well, my ex used to do this and this person does this, so maybe they're the same in that way, and I'm not sure about that. There will be similarities. There will be differences. What's most important is that you are different. So if you're sitting with somebody who is very similar to your ex, maybe in physique, maybe in personality and mannerisms, so long as you are not the same person, you're going to respond differently. And if you're triggered, okay, so what? That's okay. That's normal. It just means that you're human. So it is normal to be triggered. And I'd add to that comparisons, comparing your ex to this person, sometimes can be helpful, but not always. So I think what's more important, instead of comparing your current date to your ex, is comparing who you were in your marriage to who you are now post-divorce. That's a much healthier comparison. So, okay. And so that's number 6. Number 7 is not all connections or dates or relationships are meant to last. Not every connection you have, everybody who swipes right on you and you swipe right on them, that's not necessarily all meant to go the distance. This expression that some people come into our life, for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. You've heard this expression, I'm sure. I also like to add that some people are mirrors for us to see parts of ourselves that we don't always want to see. And some people are lessons. Like, what is this person here to teach me? Like, I notice these feelings and thoughts are coming up for me. I imagine there's a lesson in this. And by the way, some people are practice, just so you can practice getting back out there. And this doesn't mean that you're using them. They're experiences. And they might need some practice too. So maybe you go share a drink or a coffee or a meal with somebody, and you practice just being with somebody on a romantic date, or not a romantic date, just sharing time with somebody else. So again, number 7 being, not all connections are meant to go the distance. And if it ends, that's okay. What was it here to teach me? And the last one, number 8, is that the goal of dating post-divorce is not to find a replacement for your ex. If you want a replacement, you might have just stayed with your ex in the first place. And the goal is not to find just anyone to fill the shoes. The goal, as I see it, is to find and create a relationship with somebody, a connection with somebody that is in alignment with, again, what you value, that you and this person share similar ways of looking at the world, whether it's emotionally, it's politically, it's socially, maybe it's religiously or spiritually. There's so much that gets built into a relationship. And while they say opposites attract, I'm a big fan of being with somebody who you have as much as possible in common with, because there will be inevitably differences anyway. So I think it's easier to start from a place of similarity than it is of profound difference. So again, the 8 were, or are, what I wish I knew before I started dating post-divorce. Healing is not the same as being ready. Don't date your type. You don't have to prove your worthiness. This is not an audition. Red flags, ladies, do not change to green. Boundaries, boundaries, and boundaries. It's normal to be triggered when you're dating. Not all connections are meant to go the distance. And last but not least, the goal is not about finding a replacement. It's about finding somebody and creating a connection with somebody that is aligned with who you are today. So I hope that's helpful. What I would offer at the end of this podcast episode is a journal prompt. So I'd like you to, if you're willing, sit with a journal and write about where you feel like you are in these stages. Out of these 8 things that I talked about today, is there anyone that needs more attention? Maybe you want to work on how you can set better boundaries and be more clear about what it is you're seeking when you meet him for coffee at Starbucks. Or maybe you need to do some more work in therapy and on your healing process before you are truly ready, that you're not dating from a place of desperation or loneliness or panic. It's like, no, I feel like my life is full and rich and I am a whole human being and I'd like to add to it. So I encourage you to reach out to me on my website, staceyrose.com. That's STACEYROSE.com, Stacey with an E. If you have any questions, comments, or emails, you shoot them to me and I will be happy to address them on future episodes. In addition, feel free to subscribe to my newsletter. And again, you can access that at staceyrose.com, Stacey with an E. Thanks for joining me today. Happy dating.
Thanks for hanging out with me on Divorced Women Dating. Dating after divorce is definitely an adventure. And honestly, it is way more fun when we do it together. Hit subscribe so you don't miss a single moment of the helpful, hopeful, or just really relatable episodes. See you soon.